Well, those were some great icebreakers that we did a moment ago when we had two, and we definitely learned a lot about one another. Some a little bit more than others, and definitely some more things that we really, very interesting information. So the next activity I want to do, if you can turn to page 7, I want to talk about the observation results. As you very well know, on Monday, February 6th, I actually sat in your office for around 4 hours. And I took notes, and I actually had a sheet that I had basically like a customer service evaluation that I compiled myself while I observed everybody in the office. I have 5 different recommendations or observations and recommendations that I want to follow through with throughout the presentation that I will address. The very first one, every single person in the office who answered the phone did so immediately. That is a very good thing. If they were not presently on a current phone call. Otherwise, a lot of the phone calls went straight to voicemail, or the people on the other line just ended up hanging up and calling back, and so multiple phone lines rang at the same time. But something I did notice, no one was ever thanked for calling in. I thought that was a very strange thing. So when you were on the phone, you ended the conversation saying, well, have a nice day, or, not thank you so very much for your business today, or thank you for calling in. I very much appreciate, your time and, calling and considering us to take you on as a client. Second, as the day became busier and there was more traffic both on the phone and through the door, the attitude of the staff became a little more stressful and unfriendly. By the end, I could see people were getting physically upset with one another and with themselves. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but there are going to be certain things that you can do to counter the stress in your office and to hopefully, make it where when clients are coming through the door, they don't walk in and observe somebody that is getting physically upset, and they need to come in and they need to see people that are happy and cheerful and people that want to serve them. Because these people are having a very difficult time in their lives, most of them, and they, not that they need to be walking into what, would be a counseling session or an environment of a counseling session, but they need to be walking into an environment that they feel welcome at. Third, the phones began ringing nonstop at 10 o'clock in the morning and remained that until the end of the period that I was observing at 1 o'clock. I was pretty shocked. You guys have a high volume of clientele, and you actually have a lot of people that they're calling back over and over again because their questions, they're getting very anxious about having their questions answered. The attorneys in the office are not in, and they are actually being told to call back at a certain time, and the attorneys still are not in the office. And so that's the volume of the calls. It was nonstop the entire time. So there might be some things that we can change about that to improve the customer service where people are not calling in 4 or 5 times a day. 4, while on the phone with a client, or I guess while one of the individuals is on the phone with a client, if the phone began ringing, the conversation was hurried. And I think that what's important about that is that the conversation being hurried, the individuals in this office are using the Time Matters program, and basically you're entering information at the same time, but when you hurry the conversation, that information is not being, all the information that is required by the attorneys to return these phone calls is not not being inputted. So there is a problem with that. And then 5, all visitors who were greeted with a simple hello, and asking, most of the individuals in the office asked which client they were coming in to speak to, and their names. But these individuals were never they were never offered anything to drink. They were never offered to take their jacket or their coat or engaged in conversation. The people that came through the door basically were told hello and asked to take a seat. So there's some issues. There's 5 issues that we're going to talk about today, or 5 issues that hopefully through the presentation that we're going to address. So